All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle a question today that, it seems pretty simple on the surface, but it's actually surprisingly deep. And that is, what is software testing really all about? We're going to break down the real core objectives. And we're using the official ISTQB syllabus as our guide here. So let's get into it.
So let me ask you a question. When you think of a software tester, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most people, it's probably someone hunched over a keyboard, just hunting for bugs, right? And look, that's definitely part of the job, for sure, but it is so far from the whole story. If that's all you think testing is, you're kind of missing the entire point of what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay, so let's dive into our first big goal. And yeah, it's the one everybody knows, but there's a really important twist. It's not just about finding problems that are already baked into the code. The real goal is to prevent those problems from ever happening in the first place. Think of it like this. It's detective work.
Yeah, let's really lean into this detective analogy. A great detective doesn't just show up after the fact to draw chalk outlines, right? No, they're out on the beat, they know the neighborhood, they're trying to stop crime before it happens. It's the exact same thing in software. A tester shouldn't just show up at the end. We get involved early, looking for clues in the requirements and the design docs, all those little things that could turn into huge, expensive problems later on. And that proactive mindset, that's what separates real professional testing from just, basic bug hunting. And this detective work, it starts way earlier than you might think. We don't just sit around waiting for code to test. We're evaluating what are called work products. Things like the requirements documents, the user stories, the designs. I mean, think about it, right? If you spot a mistake on an architect's blueprint, what does it take to fix it? An eraser. It's cheap, it's easy, but if you wait until that wall is built, well, now you need a sledgehammer and a construction crew. That's what prevention is all about. And yeah, of course, we also do the classic shaking the tree. We actively provoke failures. We try to break the software in every way we can think of so we can find those hidden defects before your customers do. Okay, so we've done our detective work. We've found a few bugs. Maybe we even prevented a few others from ever existing. So we're done, right? We can pack up and go home? Not even close. This is where we move on to a much bigger, much more strategic goal, making sure the software is actually reliable and totally ready for the real world.
So if our first hat was the detective's fedora, the next one we put on is the architect's hard hat. We're doing the final inspection. I mean, you wouldn't open a brand new skyscraper to the public without an expert walking through, checking everything and confirming, is this thing built to code? Is it structurally sound? Is it actually, safe for people? That's exactly what this next phase of testing is all about for our software. So, what's on our big inspection checklist? Well, first off, it's about building confidence. It's not just about finding what's broken. It's about proving what works. It's also about actively reducing the risk of a total disaster. That nightmare scenario where a customer's shopping cart just mysteriously empties right as they're trying to pay. We also have to make sure our test coverage is solid, which basically means we've checked all the nooks and crannies of the application, leaving no stone unturned. And all of this, it all comes together to confirm two really big things. One, that the product is actually complete, and two, that it does what we promised it would do in the first place.
And that last bit about making sure it meets the plan brings up this classic, super important distinction in testing. It's verification versus validation. So verification asks the question, are we building the product right? Does it match the blueprint? If the spec says the button should be blue, is the button blue? Simple. But then there's validation, which asks a much deeper, more important question. Are we building the right product? Is this thing we built actually solving the customer's problem? Is it useful? Because you can follow a blueprint perfectly and still build something nobody wants. Great testing has to answer both of those questions.
All right, so our software is solid. It works the way it's supposed to, and it even solves a real problem for our users. We're in a great spot. But there's one more big goal we have to talk about. And this one's all about following the rules. So our final role, we trade the hard hat for a briefcase. We're the lawyer now. See, it's not enough for software to just work well. It also has to be compliant, it has to follow all the laws, all the regulations, and any of the contractual promises that were made. And this one objective, even though it's just a single bullet point, is massive. Think about it. If you're working on an app that handles health information, you absolutely have to comply with data privacy laws like HIPAA. If you're building a finance app, you're looking at a mountain of industry regulations. This isn't just about good quality anymore. We're talking about legal requirements. And testing is that final, crucial check to make sure every single one of those boxes is ticked.
So let's step back for a second. We've been a detective, an architect, and a lawyer. Those are three pretty different roles, but they're all part of the same job. So what's the one thing? What's the ultimate purpose that ties all of this together?
And here it is. This is the big one. The ultimate, number one goal of all software testing is to provide information. That's it. To provide clear, objective information so that the stakeholders, the project managers, the business leaders can make smart, informed decisions. Every bug we find, every performance test we run, it's all just data. Data that lets someone confidently answer the big questions like, are we ready to go live? Or is this risk big enough that we need to delay the launch?
So if you look at the whole process, it's a clear path. You start with that detective work, finding defects and trying to prevent them. Then you move on to the architect's check, verifying requirements and reducing risk. And all of that work, all that analysis, it all flows into one place, giving the decision makers the hard data they need to make the right call.
And that really brings me to a final question for you. We've gone through all these different goals, finding bugs, building confidence, making sure things are compliant, and ultimately informing decisions. So I'm curious, in your experience, which of these really important goals do you think gets ignored the most? Which one do teams tend to forget about? Let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.